and for allowing those with a great deal of emotion on this question to be able to project and present their views. I have lived through this Judiciary Committee for a period of years. To the witnesses that I have been through eons of these hearings, starting back in the 1990s on a medical procedure that saved the lives of women that were called the partial birth abortion. Let me say to the witnesses, I have the greatest respect for your viewpoint, and am grateful for you being here, grateful for your life, and grateful for your passion. As an aside, let me say that as a graduate of Yale undergraduate, and being very familiar with Yale Law School, I know that the law school is one of the premier teachers of the Constitution and well recognizes the rights of all people, and would venture to say that there are individuals with different thought from you, I would imagine, Professor Smith.
Absolutely.
And therefore, to my colleague, yes, Yale Law School and Yale undergraduate schools produce individuals that have a great concern for the Constitution of this nation. So let me begin my questioning and to ask Mr. Bopp, would you join in a request to the Director of the National Institutes of Health to suggest convening an expert panel to relook at an expert panel on fetal tissue research? Would you join in that request?
I haven't considered that question.
Well, would you? I'm giving it to you now.
I'm not prepared to testify under oath whether I agree with that or not.
I'm sorry, pardon me? Do you think it's a good idea if we have such a dispute here about fetal tissue research? Would it be a good idea?
Well, you know, I served on a panel that I thought fairly explored the issue, that came to conclusions that I believe were not warranted and that history has proven were fallacious.
So you would not be interested in having a review?
I don't know what.
I thank you for your answer.
Let me say that would be.
I thank you for your answer. Let me say that the Planned Parenthood is complying with the Fetal Research Commission under President Reagan. You may have been one of those that did not agree, but I would argue that the consensus came out, and the panel found that it was an acceptable public policy to support transplant research with fetal tissue, and as well developed a guideline that said the research in question is intended to achieve significant medical goals. Professor Smith, is it not true, and this question has been asked again, but I think it should be asked over again, that out of this long journey of fetal tissue research, the impact in medicine has been overwhelming, dealing with issues of polio, measles, rubella, Rh disease? The use of fetal tissue cell lines has helped these vaccinations, normal human development in order to gain insight into birth defects and other developmental diseases. Has this come to your attention, Professor Smith, that fetal tissue research in the medical science has generated this kind of productivity?
Absolutely.
And in actuality, the proponent of these videos was actually trying to highlight the ugliness of what is misdirected, which is the harvesting of organs, which that was not the case. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Bopp. Are you aware of how Mr. Dayton was able to engage in these false and misdirected, distorted, and maybe criminal videos? Do you know how he was able to do that?
I've been advised by the committee staff that this hearing is not on that subject, and I should not comment.
Well, I'm not sure how the committee staff could tell you it's not on that subject, because the videos are all in the letters that have been sent by the 3 Republican chairs of the committees that are engaged in it. So let me just say to you what he actually did. He stole the identity of the president of the Feminist Club at Mr. Delayden's high school. When he was asked to participate in a lawsuit, Mr. Delayden invoked his Fifth Amendment right to refrain from self-incrimination in response to this lawsuit. That doesn't sound like a man who has any truth to stand on. Might I ask you, Professor Smith, if you would, The question was asked to you about whether or not Planned Parenthood does anything good with respect to women's health. Would you recite that again for me? That's separate from the limited right to abortion under the Roe v. Wade. Do they not engage in women's health?
Absolutely. The services that are supported by the federal government include contraceptive services, wellness exams, cancer screenings, STI testing, and STD treatment. And Planned Parenthood does serves millions of women. 1 in 5 women in this country has visited a Planned Parenthood clinic. It's a beloved institution, not just by me, but by most Americans, because it is one of the few accessible providers of excellent, high-quality care outside of the abortion area, in addition to the limited number of abortions they do.
I would like to,
regular order,
I'd like
please.
to put into the record. I'd like to put into the record, and I'd ask that we not engage in this kind of member attack. I am putting into the record a state-by-state data that indicates that through the Planned Parenthood with respect to health and 2 million patients, 371,000 Pap tests, and 451,000 breast exams. This is cervical and breast cancer screenings by Planned Parenthood to young women to women who otherwise would not be able to afford it. I also ask unanimous consent for that to be submitted, and every member state is recorded here of helping these women get health care. Another I'd like to put into the record from the young women from URGE, Unite for Reproductive Gender Equity, who've indicated that young people are less likely to have insurance and have low-paying jobs. I'd like to submit this into the record. And finally, I'd like to submit into the record from the Congressional Research Service the definition of fetal tissue, what is fetal tissue research, and the amazing miracles that have come about to fetal tissue research. I am not here to push abortion. I'm here to push life and the respect for women and the Roe v. Wade legality of what we do under the Hyde Amendment, and I'm not here to defund Planned Parenthood that has now been presented by members of Congress,
Regular order.
members of Congress who really should be getting rid of sequester and not be stopping women from getting good health care. Please don't stop women from getting good health care. I am thankful for the chairman's generosity, and I thank him so very much, and I yield back my time.
I thank the gentlelady, and I now recognize Mr. Issa for 5 minutes.
Well, I'd sure like to have the time she yielded back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gentlelady from Texas